Good morning. This is Allison Vanilla with another morning meditation. This morning, as I was preparing for a workshop I'm about to do on burnout, I had my PowerPoint all set up and I was going through all my material, making sure I was up on everything. And as I was going through my material, which I knew very well, the Lord showed me something, at least He brought to my attention something that I hadn't been struggling with, but something that I had a little question about in the back of my head. And said, well, one day God's going to open it up and show it to me. And this morning He showed it to me. Okay, so let me back up. We're going to talk a little bit about burnout, and we're going to talk about biblical perspective to it. Because when people experience burnout, they experience exhaustion, and many times they become very negative about their job. Have you ever worked around people like that who are in burnout? They're very negative. Everything is negative. Or they hate the job, they hate the people, nothing's good, and so forth. If you're not there with them, it can be a struggle to be in their presence, actually. They're so negative. And right after that, usually something bad happens. They get fired, or they quit, or they struggle in their personal life because they take all that negativity home with them. So as I'm preparing to do this workshop, I'm prepared to address all of that. And the Lord reminded me that years ago, I had studied Elijah in the book of First Kings. And I love that study on Elijah. Elijah is such a wonderful prophet, and, so much faith. I just so admired him. He's one of the characters in the Bible, the people in the Bible that I really love to study because I get so much inspiration from him. But his crescendo moment, his high point in his life, also had a couple of details in it that I just struggled with. As a therapist, I understand about depression. I understand about how people could get down and discouraged after a high moment. They could just kind of sink in this moment of depression. That seems to be what Elijah did. And I've talked to people before about how Elijah did a lot of the things we're not supposed to do to keep us out of depression. He had his wonderful moment, and then he just kind of crashed and burned for a little bit. And of course, God is so gracious. He sent an angel and he helped him and allowed Elijah to do some self-care. But here's the point that I had a hard time with. He defeats all the prophets of Baal. Okay, we're looking at 1 Kings 18 through 19 now. And he tells Ahab, go home, and, the rain's coming, everything's is going to be good. He comes down from the mountain. He goes to, where was he? I forget where he was. Jezreel, maybe. And he gets a message from Jezebel, which is the evil queen, Ahab's wife. Ooh, evil queen. Talk about character. And she hears everything that's happened on this mountain. And instead of her falling to her knees and saying, okay, God, I worship you. I was wrong. You're right. Please don't destroy me like you did all my prophets. She sends a threatening note to Elijah saying, I'm going to read it directly from my Bible right here. So Jezebel sent a messenger to Elijah saying, may the gods deal with me, be it ever so severely, if by this time tomorrow I do not make your life like that of one of them. Meaning, I don't kill you the way you just killed my prophets. You're going to be gone by tomorrow. I'm promising you. You're on my radar. You're going to be gone. Now, Elijah, who had just defeated all these prophets, God had shown up in a big way. What does he do? He says, sure, I'll take you on. I'm not going to be defeated by you. Did you not see what my God just did? No, that's not what he did. The Bible says, next verse, Elijah was afraid and ran for his life. Now, it always bothered me. Why would he be afraid and run for his life? Now, I do understand about depression. I do understand about exhaustion. And I just kind of in my mind said, okay, that's what it is. So, he was exhausted. He wasn't thinking right, so fear just overcame him. But there's a little thought in the back of my head. I said, yeah, I guess that makes sense. But and maybe it doesn't really 100%, but I'll go with it. Segue to now. I'm preparing for my workshop on burnout. And one of the elements of burnout that I really see is not only when you have chronic stress or a chronic situation that is in, just an ongoing situation that's really causing you to struggle. Yeah, that's one of the elements. Plus poor self-care, not prioritizing your care right and not taking good care of yourself. I think we could see both those elements in Elijah. You have to read chapter 18 and what went on before. But you also see in people who experience burnout a lack of hope, a sense that nothing is going to change. And that's where the cynicism comes from. That's where they start grumbling and griping. They no longer start looking for solutions. They start saying, oh, things will never be different. It's always been this way. It's always going to be this way. Why struggle? Why bother? They give up. They leave the job. They just don't want to try anymore because it seems futile. And I think that's where Elijah was. He was not only depressed, he was in burnout. He had lost hope. Now, hear me well, he didn't lose hope in God. He saw what God can do. But I think he lost a sense of hope in there being a result, at least a result in his time, a result that he could see, a result that he was a catalyst to. I believe that early on, he really felt all his sacrifices and everything he was doing was going to produce a result that he could see in his day and his time. And I mean, what he expected that after all that God did on that mount, why wouldn't Jezebel fall to her knees? Why wouldn't the persecution of the people stop? Why wouldn't people tell this story far and wide and recognize? I mean, this is not something that happened 10 years ago. This is happening in their day and their time. There were enough people who are alive to tell the tale. Jezebel got the story from Ahab, who was there, who could tell her that God showed up. This God of Israel, let's not fool with him. He is a real God. Our prophets, our Baal, I don't know, he's never showed up like this. This God of Israel is the real deal. Why wouldn't Jezebel, who having heard the story, she wasn't there, but having heard the story from reliable sources and witnesses, not humble herself? Why wouldn't she let go of her arrogance? Now, this is what Elijah is faced with. Elijah is faced with a real possibility that even with the full assured knowledge of God is who he says he is, can exert the power he says he can exert, that Elijah has been preaching for all these years. Even with all of that, here is somebody whose heart is so stony and so hard. Not only doesn't she crack, but she becomes even if it's possible to be even stonier and hard-headed and stubborn about her omnipotence, her ability to overcome this God. Now, Elijah didn't lose faith in God. He knew God could take her out in a moment's notice. But I think he lost faith in his ability to be an effective producer of this outcome. Basically, I think internally it was kind of like, God, I did everything and you were even with me, and look, nothing happened. He later on says things like, I'm no better than my fathers. What does that mean? Well, his fathers tried for years also, and nothing happened there. And he didn't do much better either. At least that's the way he's thinking. And that's what happens when you burn out and when you're depressed. You just kind of think, why try one more solution? Why give it one more effort? I've tried, and nothing is changing. Have you ever felt that way in a relationship, maybe? I mean, I know some people get burned out in their marriages. They keep trying and trying and trying, and finally they're cynical. They're like, this is never going to work. I'll either stick it out and whatever happens, or I'm out of here because, no further effort on my part is going to create a better result. I mean, have you ever given up on maybe some kids? You know, you've been praying, you've been talking, you've been advising, you've been getting them help, and it's just not working. So you were just burnt out on any effort with regards to that. And again, of course, burned out on jobs. You know, we see that sometimes in teachers. They are burnt out, they're not quitting, they continue to work, but they're not putting in any effort anymore. They're just kind of like phoning it in. Now, Elijah didn't want to phone it in. He just wanted to be done with it. He was like, God, take my life. You know, you're not going to get the result that you deserve and you need to get through me. I'm not going to be an effective tool for you. Now, you got to read the rest of 1 Kings 19 and 20. I mean, God does show up again, and he's very gracious, and he helps Elijah see that, hey, you know what? You were never in this by yourself. And you're looking for a certain result and a certain thing to happen. But I didn't have all my eggs in one basket. I didn't have all my eggs in you. I have other prophets, and, you know, and as a matter of fact, you know what? Let's give you a wonderful retirement package. You did a good job. Thank you. And I just need you to do a couple more things and we're going to retire you. And he has him anoint a couple of kings and anoint Elisha to be his replacement, so to speak. So the book of Elijah is really good. So getting back to my presentation on burnout, God showed me that it's not just the exhaustion of continued effort and the eventual cynicism that can come from just feeling overwhelmed and overburdened, lacking of resources. It's that sense that nothing will change. That's really where the burnout begins. Other people are working just as hard. Other people are working just as long. And you look at them and they're not burnout. Why? Because they still have hope. They still believe that if they work that extra hour, they could catch up on the caseload. They still believe if they could pick up that one more call, they can make that sale. They believe that if they try a little harder, something's going to change. They'll talk to someone. They will institute a new plan, a new program, a new system. They'll get some more education. Something could change. They're working hard. They're tired. They're exhausted, but they are not burnt out. If you are experiencing burnout today, look for those key elements. Feeling exhausted, at which point you're not taking good care of yourself. You've stopped physically caring for yourself. You're not taking the time to sleep and eat properly, socialize with people. And the people that you're socializing with, check your connections. Make sure they're not people who are fueling the negativity, who are not supporting you in this place of, yeah, you're right. That's the worst situation. You know, you don't need to be in that marriage. Yeah, I've seen kids like that. It's not going to work. Or, oh, this is, if they're supporting you in your negativity, you need to get a different group of friends. You need to get people who could, I'm not saying affirm everything or validate everything that you're saying, but who could say to you, I understand that you're feeling this way, but let's look at some possible solution. Let's look at some things. Are you really in this by yourself? That they could say to you, have some hope. They could hold something out for you where you don't have that anymore. Because if you don't have that hope, that's when you have burnout. Okay, so that was my morning meditation and my insight today. Hopefully this wasn't too disjointed for you. I pray that you have a blessed and a wonderful day. And I pray that whatever circumstance and situation you find yourself in, that you will always remember, in Jesus, we do have a hope. And that's a wonderful hope. Be blessed.